Who would have guessed that one of hip-hop's rising icons could be at risk of a 24-year prison sentence? A$AP Rocky, real name Rakem Meyers, found himself entangled in a courtroom drama that almost sounds too intense to be real. But what makes this saga even more astonishing is Rihanna's unwavering presence by his side, offering support in one of the most high-profile and jaw-dropping trials to hit the music world in years. For those who've tracked A$AP Rocky's career since his underground mixtape days, the idea of him facing felony charges might be hard to swallow. He's known for stylish videos, chart-topping tracks, and a celebrity relationship that drives headlines. Now that polished image is under threat by allegations involving an old friend turned alleged victim, A$AP Rocky. Was it a heated personal dispute that escalated beyond control? Or is it a case of envy and extortion designed to tear Rocky down just as he hits peak stardom? The potential consequences are staggering. If convicted, he could be locked away for decades. On top of it all, Rihanna's involvement has turned an already electrifying trial into a media sensation. Headlines aren't just focusing on the alleged shooting, they're constantly capturing shots of Rihanna ducking into the courthouse, trying to avoid the glare of the spotlight. Rumors of what this means for Rihanna's music career and for the couple's 2 children have only escalated the intrigue. Some fans fear this ordeal might push her further away from recording new music altogether. So how did it come to this? How did 2 longtime friends from the same hip-hop collective end up at war in a Los Angeles courtroom? And why is the story suddenly so muddled with missing bullet casings, conflicting testimonies, and a defense that says everything boils down to jealousy and greed? Strap in. We're about to dive deep into this turbulent saga that could transform not just A$AP Rocky's future, but everyone around him. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Long before fans knew him as the global star A$AP Rocky, Rakem Meyers was just another teenager from Harlem navigating a rough environment. Alongside him was a group of friends who shared both a musical vision and a street-savvy approach to making it big. They rallied under the name A$AP, an acronym for Always Strive and Prosper, and built a reputation for innovative rap flows, cutting-edge fashion, and boundary-pushing artistry. Among this circle was A$AP Rocky, someone Rocky had supposedly known since his high school years. In those early days, no one was a superstar. They were just a crew of hungry creatives hustling to get their voices heard. Music studios were dingy rooms cluttered with secondhand equipment. Live gigs happened in cramped clubs or at small community events. Through it all, the group supported one another. They saw themselves as a collective. If one member soared to fame, the rest believed they'd rise in tandem. It wasn't just about who had bars or who could rap the fastest. It was a brotherhood built on mutual admiration and shared ambition. Yet the dynamic started to shift when Rocky's popularity skyrocketed. He had the look, the swagger, and an undeniable star quality that drew attention from mainstream media. Soon, he was collaborating with big-name artists, headlining major venues, and gracing magazine covers. What was once a group of equals became a cluster of smaller acts, orbiting around a rapidly rising sun. Some found a way to adapt, playing supporting roles or developing their own niches. Others, according to rumors, grew resentful, feeling overshadowed, abandoned, or simply left behind in the dust of Rocky's swift ascent. A$AP Rocky, in particular, struggled with the perception that his old friend had turned his back on him. While details remain cloudy, REI reportedly felt that Rocky wasn't doing enough to bring the rest of the crew along for the ride. Whispers began to circulate about REI's frustration and the friction building between the 2 men. Yet no one believed it would escalate into anything truly dangerous. After all, they had a bond rooted in teenage dreams and the hardships of their shared upbringing, right? But tension was simmering beneath the surface. In November 2021, the simmering tension spilled into public view with a shocking claim. A$AP Rocky accused A$AP Rocky of firing a gun in his direction during an altercation in Hollywood. This is the pivotal event that would transform a silent feud into a full-blown legal firestorm. REI painted a vivid picture of that night. According to his testimony, a simple meetup at the W Hotel was supposed to serve as a venue for hashing out lingering issues. Instead, he claims Rocky arrived ready for confrontation. He alleges that Rocky pulled out a gun and shot at him twice, one bullet even grazing his knuckles. Those allegations, if true, are more than enough to justify felony charges. On top of that, the potential sentencing guidelines in California for a semi-automatic firearm offense could land Rocky behind bars for up to 24 years. Rocky's defense, however, tells a completely different story. They argue that what REI calls a real gun was, in fact, just a starter pistol, a prop used in music videos and performances. According to Rocky's legal team, no real bullets were fired, which they say is consistent with the lack of physical evidence police found at the scene. When officers arrived, they couldn't locate shell casings, bullet fragments, or bloodstains. It was only later, claimed the defense attorneys, that REI presented shell casings he supposedly found himself, a move the defense calls suspicious at best. The question becomes, who is telling the truth? If REI truly was shot at, why did the police find no immediate evidence? On the other hand, if Rocky only used blanks, why would REI go to such lengths, even filing civil lawsuits for assault and emotional distress? Confusion reigns on both sides, and the drama only continues to unfold in court proceedings that feel less like a standard legal process and more like a script from a Hollywood thriller. Yet the confusing evidence was just the beginning. As the dust settled on the initial rumors, the real heavyweight bout began in the courtroom. Prosecutors charged A$AP Rocky with serious felonies, alleging he fired an actual weapon. In the opening statements, the prosecution insisted they could prove Rocky's guilt by pointing to REI's injuries, the tension leading up to the night in question, and conflicting statements from Rocky's circle. They emphasized how REI was able to produce spent casings, ones that conveniently matched the caliber of a real firearm. Could all of this be staged by REI, as Rocky's camp suggests? Prosecutors don't think so. Rocky, on the other hand, was offered multiple plea deals, some rumored to be as lenient as 6 months of jail time. In many criminal cases, especially high-stakes ones, defense lawyers advise their clients to seriously consider a plea. The rationale is simple: avoid the unpredictability of a jury trial, especially if the evidence could be interpreted in a way that secures a conviction. But Rocky's confidence in his innocence, or in his legal team, apparently led him to reject those deals, taking a significant gamble by putting his fate in the hands of the jury. Why would he take such a risk? The defense strategy revolves around the notion that this is all an elaborate ploy by REI, someone who, according to Rocky's attorneys, is bitter and looking for a big payday or a moment in the limelight. They claim REI is the one who demanded money to stay silent about the incident, which, if true, might suggest extortion. Moreover, the defense finds it suspicious that the only physical evidence, shell casings, miraculously appeared in REI's possession days after the police failed to locate any trace of gunfire. Courtroom tensions reached a fever pitch when REI took the stand. He delivered an emotional account, describing how he felt abandoned by Rocky's soaring fame and how he'd never expected their disagreement to go this far. Emotions also ran high outside the courthouse. Media personnel swarmed the building, pouncing on any sight of Rocky, his legal team, or Rihanna. At times, the spectacle became so overwhelming that the judge even worried about whether the trial could remain unbiased. But the court wasn't the only place the drama was unfolding. In any high-profile case, star power has the potential to shift the narrative, and Rihanna's star power is off the charts. Whether it's her Grammy-winning discography or her multi-billion-dollar Fenty empire, Rihanna's every move draws headlines. Now, with her partner and the father of her 2 children facing potentially decades behind bars, those headlines have become even more sensational. She arrived at the Los Angeles courthouse in understated outfits, doing her best to slip in through side entrances and underground parking lots to avoid the cameras. Still, paparazzi caught glimpses of her, and news outlets ran wild with speculation about her mood and the state of her relationship with Rocky. Some outlets went as far as analyzing her body language in the courtroom. Was she anxious? Supportive? Furious at the accusers? But Rihanna's presence wasn't just a tabloid spectacle. It also introduced a unique complication during jury selection. Prosecutors and defense attorneys had to make sure prospective jurors weren't starstruck fans who might be swayed simply by Rihanna's involvement. Potential jurors were asked questions like, have you purchased Rihanna's music or cosmetics? And are you familiar with her philanthropic work? The goal was to weed out anyone whose fandom might overshadow their impartial judgment. Meanwhile, a separate question looms for Rihanna's own career. Fans have been clamoring for new music since her last full album release years ago. Insiders whisper that this legal ordeal only adds to her hesitations about diving back into recording. With 2 children, a booming business, and now her partner's future on the line, it's anyone's guess if or when she'll take the stage again. But the support of a global icon doesn't guarantee a quick resolution. No matter who you believe, one thing is clear. There are 2 vastly different accounts of the night of the alleged shooting. A$AP Rocky's story is brimming with betrayal, fear, and an almost cinematic showdown between 2 former friends. He claims Rocky coldly aimed a weapon at him, firing more than once. In his mind, the reason is simple: jealousy and anger over unresolved business and personal disputes. He even cites an old pattern of tensions in their group, culminating in a confrontation that ended in violence. A$AP Rocky's side calls that version a flat-out fabrication. They insist there was no real firearm that night, only a starter pistol with blanks, used to scare off any potential aggression or defuse the scuffle. They also point to the lack of immediate evidence at the scene, emphasizing how suspicious it seems for REI to turn up days later with bullet casings. Could REI have planted them? Could he be lying about his injuries? Or perhaps exaggerating them to make the story more sensational, knowing that a sensational story draws media attention and potential settlement offers. But while lawyers argue over ballistics and missing shell casings, the human aspect of this feud is often overlooked. These are 2 men who once considered themselves practically brothers. REI has expressed how he felt like a nobody when Rocky soared to prominence. That kind of emotional strain can spark resentment, especially when large sums of money, fame, and public admiration are at stake. The trial is forcing both parties to recount personal histories and regrets. Witnesses from the broader A$AP crew have been called in to testify about the group's internal dynamics. Some mention old grudges and the possibility that REI felt overshadowed for years. Others recall Rocky complaining about demands and negativity from friends who wanted more support than he could realistically provide. The result is a swirl of conflicting testimonies, each version of events fueling more questions than answers. Still, the stakes keep rising as the trial drags on. What happens in this trial could reshape not just A$AP Rocky's future, but the entire conversation around how fame affects friendships and loyalty. If Rocky is found guilty, he could spend a significant chunk of his life behind bars, time he'll never get back, and a crushing blow for any new music releases, tour plans, or the possibility of him and Rihanna building a life together outside courtrooms. The fallout would be unprecedented, particularly considering Rihanna's status in global pop culture. Imagine the uproar if one of music's most visible power couples becomes torn apart by a long-term prison sentence. On the other hand, if Rocky is vindicated and the court deems this shooting claim to be a hoax or an overblown accusation, the conversation will inevitably shift to REI's motives. Did he stage this to extract money? Could he have been manipulated by other forces? Or was he genuinely scared and misguided about what happened? Public trust, once lost, is hard to regain, and accusations of lying in court could damage REI's reputation irreparably. Then there's the broader hip-hop community. The A$AP Collective is a notable example of friends who rose from humble beginnings to global fame. Their story has inspired countless aspiring artists who see collaboration as a path to success. If this dispute ends with severe legal consequences, it's a grim reminder of how quickly close bonds can fracture under the weight of envy and unmet expectations. For law enforcement, the case also reflects tensions around how celebrity-related investigations are handled. Critics question whether local authorities did enough when they first arrived at the scene. Others argue that the star status of the individuals involved might skew official treatment, whether that means leniency for the accused or extra scrutiny to set a public example. Yet, with so many unanswered questions, only one thing is certain. The courtroom battle between A$AP Rocky and A$AP Rocky is about far more than just a single night in Hollywood. It's about loyalty that crumbled under the pressure of fame, about the lengths people will go to protect or attack someone's reputation, and about the razor-thin line between truth and fabrication. Did Rocky truly put his friend's life in danger, or is he fighting for his freedom against a calculated lie? Could REI have been so desperate and aggrieved that he'd fabricate evidence? Or is he genuinely a victim of a near tragedy? For the fans, it's a stark reminder that no matter how glamorous a celebrity's life appears, turmoil often lurks behind the scenes. For Rihanna, the stakes couldn't be higher. She's juggling her own career, motherhood, and the stress of watching her partner stand trial for a serious offense. The entire music world is holding its breath, wondering what impact this will have on new albums, performances, and brand collaborations for both artists. In the end, the jurors will sift through conflicting testimonies, examine all available evidence, and make the final call. If Rocky walks free, we may see a triumphant return to music, and a renewed focus on just how fragile trust can be within a tight-knit group. If he's convicted, he might vanish from the public eye for years, reshaping not only his life but the entire narrative of the ASAP collective. With so much at stake, only one truth remains absolute. The real story lies somewhere behind both sides' claims, and the final verdict could alter the hip-hop landscape forever. So where do you stand in this tangled mess? Is it all about money and jealousy, or did something far more dangerous happen on that November night? One thing's for sure, when childhood bonds break, the fallout can be catastrophic, and sometimes, not even fame and fortune can save you.